just love music? And music that speaks to your heart, to your soul? Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. What a terrific assurance to know that. Then this last song, how fitting for the week of Easter. I'm forgiven because you're condemned. I'm alive and well. Your spirit lives within me. What a terrific set of songs this morning. It just fits so well. Your love is running after me. Been with us through the fire. How many of you guys have been through some dark times in your life? I have. You probably have. And at times it may be kind of hard to see Jesus in the middle of that. But when you stop and look around, you'll see him. And when you get past it, you can look back and see that Jesus was there. So thank you for the music, all of you musicians. Let me also say welcome to the Casamita Baptist Association. We're so glad you guys are a part of us. You guys are now one of about 31 churches that are part of our network. We kind of surround Mount Diablo. We go from here out to Antioch and Pittsburgh and Oakley and Brentwood and around to Livermore and Dublin and Pleasanton, and then back up 680 into Walnut Creek and Concord. You guys have a part of what we do now. We're so glad you guys are one of us. In the past few months, you guys have joined us. We have a new Hispanic church that is launching out in Brentwood. You guys know where Brentwood is? We're going to launch a new church out there. There is a new English-speaking congregation that is launching in Livermore. It's called Vintage Church. There's a church that, there was a struggling church that was in Livermore, and another church from Oakland, Southern Baptist Church, moved in, and now they're running over 100. And then we also have another church, Bethel Baptist Church. They've been around for 50 or 60 years, and at one point they had 230 people part of their congregation about 30, 35 years ago. And now they're down to about 25, 30 people. The cool thing is, I go to that church, I'm the youth group. I'm the youngest person in the room. Makes me feel good, but if not, it's not good for the church. And so they asked me for help, and I said, I'm going to grab my water. I've been having some throat issues lately. So this church that was running not very many people. Boy, they got a whole bunch of water up here. Nice. And I said, can you guys imagine and desire the day when there are more strollers in the church than there are walkers and wheelchairs in the church? Nothing against walkers and wheelchairs. My daughter used one, and I know they are necessary. But if that's all you have is people in their 80s who are in walkers and wheelchairs, 10 years from now, your church is going to be in serious trouble. So can you imagine a church with no children being full of strollers and kids in the room? And so they acknowledge they need help. And one of our sister churches out in Oakley that runs about 1,000 people, they're going to adopt them and help them grow. So I was there this past week, and they were remodeling one of the rooms to turn them into children's rooms. So it's going to be an exciting time, and you guys are a part of that. And so I just want to say thank you so much for finding value in us, and we hope that we can support you guys going forward. Pastor Ben and I, we had lunch, about 2 weeks ago, had a delightful lunch to encourage and pray for each other. So life is good. Now, I understand this is Missions Month, and your pastor asked me to kind of camp out a little bit on evangelism and sharing Christ, right? Okay, so we're in the right place. So one of the stories that I love in the New Testament is Jesus took a mission trip. You've heard in John chapter 4, the woman at the well, a Samaritan woman at the well. Now, my Bible says that Jesus had to go to Samaria. In some other translations, I think King James says Jesus needs to go to Samaria. It wasn't an option. He had to go. Have you ever had something you felt you just had to do? Everything else was cast aside. I just have to. I'm going to tell you one spiritual story that doesn't happen hardly ever. Normally I go up, I'm also a pastor up in Healdsburg. It's about 20 minutes past Santa Rosa. So today I've already driven 150 miles. And so I was up there, and I go up there usually on Wednesdays and Saturdays and Sundays. And so I usually roll into the church about 3 o'clock on Wednesdays. And I got up that day and I said, I feel like I must go right now. So I just put on some clothes. I don't even know if I combed my hair. I said, I've got to go. The Spirit is telling, and that never happens to me. And I got there, rolled out of the car, and I wasn't there 10 minutes, and we got word that one of our senior ladies had passed away. I wasn't there 10 minutes. I must needs to go early. And some of you have had those experiences where God has just told you to go do something, go speak to somebody. And you know what's a horrible feeling? If you know that and you don't take that opportunity, and then you find out later you missed it. Maybe it's Jesus asked you to share the gospel with somebody and you didn't, and you knew you needed to do that. Then all of a sudden they passed away and you missed it. That happened to me when I was much younger, and to this day I remember the man who lived across the street from me named Brian. I missed a chance. And so he probably died but not Christ, and I've never forgotten that. So what can we learn from the woman at the well in Samaria? Now in this series, there's a good long story. Most of the stories in the New Testament are not real long, but this one takes up all of John, just about all of John chapter 4. It's a long story. It must be important. Now, you guys know the story of Samaria. In the Old Testament, the people of Israel, they did not always follow God. They sinned, they strayed, they rebelled against God, they worshiped other idols, and a couple times, Jesus said, all right, enough is enough. I'm going to have you destroyed, and they were sent off into exile to go live in other countries. And they became less than full citizens. And there were a few people who were left behind in the land of Israel, but not many. The bulk of the people were gone. And even the people that were stayed behind, most of them were not the best and the brightest. They weren't the best and the brightest. And so they stayed behind, and everybody else, they went away, and they tried to honor God and their religion and their culture as much as they could in the foreign land. The people who stayed behind did not. There weren't many people left, and so one of their biggest sins was they married people outside the Jewish nation. Mixed race marriages. Now, nowadays, that's not that big of a deal. I'm from Florida. My wife is from Alabama or Mississippi, both about the same. We're a mixed race. She's a Southern gal, I'm from Florida, right? And she's smart, and I'm not. We're mixed, okay? Some of you have mixed race marriages. Not a big deal, but in the Old Testament times, it was a big deal. They turned their back on the Jewish tradition, the Jewish culture, and God's law was for them to stay within their own nationality. And so when the people who were exiled, they came back and they saw the mixed races and the mixed marriages and the children who were now not full Jewish, they're half Jewish. And that was not cool back in those days. So they said, we suffered, we went to the far country and we kept the faith, and you guys stayed and you didn't. You had the easy life and you messed up. So we're going to shun you. We no longer respect you. We want nothing to do with you. Now the funny part was they were in the middle of the country. And if you wanted to go from north to south or south to north, you had to go right through them. It's kind of like Walnut Creek. If you guys want to go to, let's just say, Dublin or Pleasanton, you have to go through Walnut Creek, right? No. You can take the long way. You can go out on Highway 4, down to Embryville, and come back around because you don't like Walnut Creek. Or you can go out Highway 4, go all the way out past Antioch and Pittsburgh, and then come down to Oakley and Brentwood, come out in Livermore, and get to, I mean, you can, right? Not the smartest way to go, not the quickest way to go, especially if you're walking. Right? You better pack a lot of water. It's going to take you a while. In the time of the New Testament, we don't like Samaria. So what did they do? They took the long, but they're not going through Samaria. We don't like those people. We shun them. We'll take the long way rather than to go through there. So they would add to their journey. That's how much there was some unpleasantness there. So now we read in John chapter 4, verse 1. Now Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that he was gaining and baptized more disciples than John the Baptist. Although in fact it was not Jesus who baptized, but the disciples. So he left Judea, which is down south where Jerusalem is, and went once more to Galilee, up in the north. Now he had to go through Samaria. Or some Bibles might say, must needs to go through Samaria. Oh, Jesus, do we have to? We don't like those people, man. Let's go around. Let's take the scenic route, right? We don't want to go through Walnut Creek. Traffic is bad. The stores are expensive. Let's go a different way. Jesus must needs. Now, where else have we heard about Samaria in the New Testament? Anybody can remember?
The beggar on the road.
Yeah. The man who was going to Jericho and he got beat up by the bad guys, probably those guys from Walnut Creek, right? And the religious people went around him. Who was it that helped him and cared for him? The man from the Samaritan man, right? Okay, see if this rings a bell. Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. Okay, so we have commands to go there, right? Jesus says, I must needs to go through Samaria. I wonder why Jesus wanted to go that way. I wonder why he had to go that way. I wonder. They went to Samaria. It's a big city. Now, again, there are some cultural things that weren't only Samaria, but men didn't approach women too much, especially if they were Samaritan. Now, Jesus got to town, and Jesus went and sat down by the well. He was tired and probably hot and thirsty, and he went to the well. Now, it's noon. The disciples, it says, went to go get lunch. So they went to Safeway, they went to Chick-fil-A, In-N-Out, I don't know. But they went to go get lunch. So Jesus is there by himself. And up comes a Samaritan woman by herself. Now, what's unusual about that? Well, in those days, and even today now, in areas where they have wells, the women don't go get water at noon. It's hot. And you need water in the morning to do your dishes, to brush your teeth, to take your bathing rituals, to cook with. But she was there at noon. Well, we'll find out why later, but she didn't have the best reputation, and she probably did not have that many friends in town. So she was there by herself because nobody would go with her, and she's there at noon because nobody else in their right mind would be there at noon, except Jesus. So she walks up, and he says, can I have a drink of water? He doesn't have a bucket or a ladle or anything to get water with. And what does this lady say? I'm a Samaritan woman. You're a Jewish man. You're not supposed to talk to me. We have these cultural rules. You don't do that. Jesus violated some cultural rules. You guys have some cultural rules. Some of them I may not know. I have a lot of Asian friends, and I have learned to wear these kinds of shoes because I could just slip them off. If I'm wearing tennis shoes, I got to sit down, untie them, and pull them off, right? And one time I forgot, and I walked into the house, and they go, shoes, shoes, shoes. I go, oh wait, my bad. I had to back out and take my shoes off, right? It's a cultural thing. Other churches, everybody has different rules and things. I have been to like a Romanian church and Slavic churches. Sometimes they have women on one side and men on the other. In a Russian church, you never, ever, ever put your Bible on the floor. You can't do it. If you're a pastor, and you walk in, you sit up here, and you go, oh, don't do that. You're done. For real. In other cultures, it's really rude to show them the bottom, so you can't cross your leg and show them the bottom of your shoe, right? Every culture has it. In that time, Jewish people didn't talk to Samaritans. A single man for sure didn't talk to a lady by herself, especially from Samaria. I wonder why Jesus must needs to go to Samaria. I wonder. So the man says, can I have some water? All right. Now here's an evangelism tip. We're supposed to talk about evangelism, right? How did Jesus start a gospel conversation? Can I have some water? It was an area of common interest. They're both at the well. And he also asked a question, making himself vulnerable. He put himself in a place of need. Now, as Christians, and often church leaders, we're the ones who are often giving and helping, right? How can I help you? How can we serve you? How often do we ask for help? Even if we don't need it. Allowing other people to help you is first humbling. It allows them to serve you, and it starts conversation. He didn't knock on this lady's door and say, look, if you were to die tonight, would you go to heaven or hell? No, thank you, right? They're at the well. The common thing is, can I have some water? Something in common. Something she was able to help him with. And so then they steer the conversation of, why are you asking me for water? Well, if you knew who I was, you would ask me for water. And I could give you living water where you would never thirst again. Can you imagine? Never have to go to Costco and buy those big heavy cases of water again. You will never thirst. Living water. So then he goes on to explain that. I wonder why Jesus needs to go to Samaria. So then she starts asking theological questions. Well, what about we worship there versus we worship here in the temple? And Jesus says, it doesn't matter where you worship. The day is going to come, but you're going to worship the Christ. You're going to worship the Christ. And then they start asking questions. So she offers these questions. And sometimes when you have a gospel conversation, people are going to ask you odd questions to try to trap you. Well, what about the people who live in the South Pole who've never heard the gospel before? Are they going to go to hell? They're not really having a question. They want to try to trap you and trick you and divert the conversation. You ever had people divert conversations on you when they're trying to not answer the question? Yeah. They'll ask that, or what about the babies who die? They never heard the gospel. So they start asking these other questions. What does Jesus do? He says, good question, but let me tell you who I am. Let me tell you about Jesus. So he steers the conversation back to the matter at hand. So if you're having a gospel conversation, sure, have a polite conversation, but don't get stuck chasing rabbits. When my family was, when I was a child, we took long vacations. My dad got 5 weeks of vacation a year. And we lived in Miami, Florida. Anybody know where Miami, Florida is? It's about 20,000 miles that way. We would leave Miami, Florida, other end of the country, and we would drive 5 days, 12 hours a day in a car with no air conditioning in the summertime across the desert. 5 hard days. Did we stop and go see this and go see that? Nope. We stayed on the freeway. We got off to go to the bathroom. We got off to eat our packed lunch. We didn't go see all the tourist attractions between, and we would come all the way to Los Angeles. We had relatives in Los Angeles. And then we'd go all the way to Seattle and over to Minnesota and then back down to Miami. 11,000 miles in one trip. We were tired, but we had such a good time. But the key is, if you get to where you want to go, you can't take too many detours and go chasing things you're not supposed to be chasing. Stay on task. I wonder why Jesus needed to go to Samaria. He needs to go to Samaria. So finally, she starts asking questions, and she goes, I know the Messiah's coming. I wonder, are you the Messiah? What did Jesus say? Good answer. I am talking to you, and yes, I am the Messiah. And she looked at him just stunned. And you know what Jesus said? Go get your husband and bring him back. Oops. Jesus knew. And she said, how do I say this? I don't have a husband. And he says, what? You're correct. You don't have a husband. And I know that, and you know that. In fact, the man that you're living with now, he's not your husband. And in fact, you've had 5 other husbands. How did Jesus know that? So now you got a Jewish man in the heat of the day by himself talking to a Samaritan woman. And she was not the mayor. She was not Miss Samaria. She was an outcast. Her reputation in town was not good. You want to know why she was at the well by herself? Why the other women who went at 8 o'clock in the morning and they caught up and they gossiped and they talked and they giggled and they told stories about their husbands and they complained about, they had a good time together, the community. She couldn't be a part of that. Because her reputation was not that good. But here's Jesus talking to her. I wonder why Jesus needs to go to Samaria, a place nobody else wants to go. And so then the disciples come back with their Subway sandwiches or wherever they went for lunch or brought them back, and not on one of them, they probably walked up and go, nobody said a word to Jesus. Jesus, this looks bad, Jesus. What are you doing talking to her? Of all people. You know that you shouldn't be talking to a Samaritan. And then what happens with the lady? What does she do? Anybody remember what she does? She goes to town because the well was often outside of town. Now, you know what's cool about this well? You know who built that well? Jacob. Jacob's well. Who was Jacob? Abraham's grandson. The father of the 12 tribes. If you ever want to know who those patriarchs are, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. They're all alphabetized in order. Abraham comes first, A. Isaac, I. Then Jacob and Joseph. This well was dug by Jacob, the father, the nation of Israel, the 12 tribes. What a holy sight that was. And here he is, part of the heir in that lineage, the Messiah. He's at this well, talking to this lady who needed Christ. I wonder why Jesus must needs to go to Samaria. So this lady goes back into town. Now remember, her reputation, not very good. All the women didn't want to talk to her because she might steal their husband. Husbands are going, I can't go near there. If I'm seen with you, that's trouble. I'm going to be in so much trouble. She went back and she says, come and see. Come and meet this man. He has told me everything I have ever done. He's the Messiah. Come and see. I wonder why Jesus said, I have to go to Samaria. You starting to see the picture here? So when she went to town and she told all the townspeople, come and see this man. He's a prophet. He's the Messiah. He's told me everything I've ever done. So what do? They all get in the minivan and they drive out to the well. And the whole town is there. Now remember Jesus, they just went through Samaria. It's noon, right? They could get their lunch, get some water, and they could keep going to Galilee where they were going, right? They could keep walking down to Pleasanton and Dublin because it's only halftime, it's lunchtime. They could keep going. It's another 6, 7, 8 hours till dark. They could keep going. I wonder why Jesus had to go through Samaria. So now the whole town has come out. And Jesus is teaching and preaching with them. Let me read towards the end of the chapter. John chapter 4, I think it's verse 39. Many of the Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. He told me everything I ever did, so when the Samaritans came to him, they urged him to stay with him. And so he stayed for 2 more days. And because of his words, many more became believers. What a great testimony. What a great ending to that story. Jesus had intentionality about where he was going. And when the opportunity was there, he could have said, oh, you know what? I know you all are here to meet Jesus, but it's 1 o'clock. We got a bus to catch. We're going down to the next, we're going up to Galilee. No, he stayed there and he ministered to the people because the mission came first. And the people seeking Jesus that he needed to teach and preach to were more important than anything else he had to do. So they adjusted their schedule. And they stayed for 2 more days teaching the people. And God blessed. And what's the Bible say? Many from that town believed him. And when we stayed 2 more days, many more people believed Jesus. How's that for a mission story? How's that for sharing the gospel? He didn't stand on the street corner and start shouting scriptures at them and saying, turn or burn. If you were to die today, would you go to heaven or hell? For all have sinned. Have you sinned? Yes. You're going to hell. You want to go to heaven? He made it easy. He made it natural. He had on a natural conversation with him. There's so many things that we can learn from this story. But I want us to focus on, from the very beginning, Jesus said, I must needs. I have to go to Samaria. So there are some principles here to gain. Jesus knew his purpose. He knew his must needs. He intentionally went to where non-Christians were. He just didn't hang out with his disciples. That would have been a lot of fun. They were good friends. They were easy to teach. They were already Christians, well within his comfort zone. Most of us, where do we want to hang out? With our friends, with our church people. Many times in churches, for people who have been in churches for a long, long time, you ask them, who are your friends? And they start listing off the church people. The church that I lead up in Healdsburg, we have 25, 30 people, and they're all older like me. And I ask them who your friends are. And I go, this is our friends. Who do you know that's not a Christian? I guess nobody is their answer. I said, well, we got to change that. We have to start hanging out and go to where lost people are and start becoming friends with lost people. Jesus knew his purpose. And then Jesus put himself in a good position. I mentioned this earlier. He put himself in a vulnerable position. So many times we don't need help, but it gives people an opportunity to help. Several years ago, we had a daughter, and she got really, really sick, and she spent a month in the hospital. And we were leaders in our church. I'm a pastor, I'm a missionary. We're used to giving and providing help like many of you are. How can we help you? Well, can we help you guys? Oh, no, we're good. We're okay. We don't need your help. We're good. Thank you, though. But let us help you. Okay. When she came home from the hospital, she was basically a quadriplegic. She had gotten the disease. She got better for a little while, but she got to where she could not move anything except her head. And it took her almost a full year to recover. Like when she came home in an ambulance after being in Stanford for over a month. She came home in an ambulance. We have, like many old houses, it's about this type of house. You've got to climb stairs, 11 stairs to get into the house. We couldn't get her there. Couldn't put her in a wheelchair. They had to call the fire department and carry her in on a stretcher and put her in the hospital bed. And for 6 months, she could not care for herself. She needed medicine. We put the pills in her mouth. We held up the cup with the straw in it. We helped her do her physical exercises. And thank goodness we had a good team. You know what? We finally admitted we needed help. It was a hard place to be. Because we're so used to giving, right? But we made ourselves vulnerable and we allowed other people to serve us. We put aside our pride. And we could have gotten by. We could have ordered pizza every night and didn't need the food. But man, that would not have been good. So we allowed other people to serve us. And we put ourselves in a position of need. What are some things that you can do, but your neighbor can maybe do better? Could you risk it and go knock on your neighbor's door saying, hey, I'm doing this. Can you help me with that? If you're a guy, you hate to ask for help. At least I do. We would rather try to pick up something that's 400 pounds by ourselves than admit we need help. Why not ask a couple of neighbors to come help you? You get to have some conversations with them and invite them into your life. That's what Jesus did. I need some water. I have nothing to get it with. He was clear in his conversation. He made it natural. We're both here to, well, I need some water. That was something very normal to ask for. When the people came back, now Jesus had a direct conversation with the lady. He didn't dilly-dally around. He said, I'm the Messiah. And you need Jesus. You're not a follower of Christ. You're not married. You're living with somebody who's not your husband. And you've had 5 husbands. Lady, you need Jesus. He was nice about it, but he was direct. And he said, I am the Christ. And when the lady went to go get everybody in town, they came back. What did Jesus do? He preached, and he taught, and he shared the gospel and how they could become a Christian and follower of Christ. And many believed. And then the last thing that we can learn from this is Jesus adjusted his schedule. And there's always the the make-up, it's probably a made-up story, but you're on your way to church and you see some person broken down on the side of the street, they're struggling to change their tire. I could help them, but then I'd be late for church, so I'm going to keep going to church because I don't want to stop and help them get all dirty and miss church. So you miss them. You pull over and you help the people. You adjust your schedule when God gives you those opportunities. That's another way to share your faith in evangelism. Sometimes God puts people in your pathway. You know what I call those? Divine interruptions. God puts somebody in your pathway to interrupt your routine. And it's an opportunity to engage somebody, often with the gospel or some form of ministry. And so many times we go, I don't have time to be interrupted. Divine interruptions. Jesus had a divine interruption. He delayed his trip by 2 more days. I wonder why Jesus must needs to go to Samaria. Now, when Jesus told his disciples, hey, we're going to go to Galilee, and I must needs to go through Samaria, the disciples didn't know. They didn't know why. Now, who knows if they kind of grumbled and say, Samaria, really? Can't we go around? They followed. He knew his purpose. And when the opportunity, he was intentional, and when the opportunity presented itself, he took advantage of that. So Pastor Benny asked me to share some examples of when I have shared my faith. So let me tell you some of the things that I have done. Now, not every gospel conversation is going to end with, yes, I want to believe. But you can move people along. I have a pharmacist. She is a lady. She is Vietnamese. She married a Korean man. The Korean man the family goes to a strong Christian church. She doesn't get it, and I don't know that she fully understands the gospel. And she's struggling. So when I'm at the pharmacy, I ask her conversations. And so she knows that I'm a pastor. I ask her how things are going. And you know how when you go to the pharmacist, they say you need a consultation to explain to you about the medicine? They even have it if you go from one manufacturer, same medication but from a different maker, they are required to tell you that. And so whenever I pick up my meds, I ask my pharmacist, hey, do I need a consultation? And she'll go, no. Okay, that means she's good. Hey, do I need a conversation? She goes, yes, I need to talk to you. So we go into the private room and she tells me what's going on and what she doesn't understand. We have a gospel conversation. I have a lady next door, been my neighbor for, 10, 12, 13 years. We have a fourplex next door. And Andy used to be part of a church over here. She's not married to her former husband. He lives in town, and she looks to be about 80. And she told me a couple weeks ago, I am moving. I said, you've been here a long time. She goes, yeah, it's not a good situation. I said, well, tell me what's going on. She goes, well, I'm not going back to my ex-husband, but I'm going back to him. He's still single. His health is failing. He can no longer care for himself nor the house. So as hard as it is, I'm going to go back and live in a separate bedroom, but I'm going to have to go back and take care of him and the house because it's the right thing to do. And you could see, and she lived in a nice place. She's got a good view of the water that's out here. She goes, it's so hard to do. I really don't want to do this, but it's the right thing to do. You know what I said? Do you have a support system to come around you? Because what you're going to do is very hard. You're going to be lonely. You're going to be discouraged. You may not be happy there. Do you have a support system? You know what she said? No. I said, do you have a church that you've attended or used to attend? Well, I used to go to a church, Concord, somewhere over here. I don't know where. I said, have you been in a long time? She goes, no, most everybody's moved away or died. I don't have that. I came back with Annie, It doesn't have to be this way. Can I suggest a church for you that my wife goes to? We live next door. She'll be happy to take you. I said, you will find a group of ladies there. Some of them in your same situations, they can help walk with you, and you can get back reconnected to God. She goes, thank you, I may do that. Did I preach the gospel at her? No. But did I have a natural conversation with her that was going to be in her best interest? Yeah, absolutely. Now, sometimes you can also have gospel conversations with people just by asking questions. Okay? Anybody here have a tattoo that you're willing to tell us about? No tattoos in anybody? That is amazing.
You're going to allow.
Oh, okay. Some of you probably have it on your back and you weren't going to tell anybody, but that's okay. But tattoos for people can be meaningful to the people. You know what a question is I love to ask? What's your favorite tattoo? What's the meaning behind that tattoo? And they'll tell you a deeply personal story that they're proud of. Oh, that's because of my grandfather or my grandmother, or I have my little sister's name tattooed because she passed away or she's really sick, or something very, very meaningful in your life. And that opens up the conversation that can be deeply impersonal. Or maybe they'll have a religious symbol or jewelry. Anybody here wearing jewelry that's got a cross on it? A lot of women do. So, hey, I noticed your cross. Is that important to you? What's the story behind that piece of jewelry? And they can have a conversation with them. Now, we also have sometimes arguments about happy holidays versus Merry Christmas. My goodness, this is Christmas. We aren't saying happy holidays. And somebody said happy holidays to me. You go, no, it's Merry Christmas. Get it right. There are Christians who believe that. And so when someone says happy holidays, you know what you can ask back? What holiday do you celebrate this time of year? Now, they may say the birth of Jesus. They may say something else for a different religion. It's non-threatening. Just asking questions. And you can get a lot farther with those conversations. And you know what? You have the opportunity to see these people day in and day out. One of the deacons at this church that I serve at in Healdsburg, I say, how many non-Christians do you know? He says, I can't think of any. I said, really? How many medications are you on, Tom? And he's got to be 70 or something. I'm on, 4 or 5. I said, do you get your meds mail order? Oh, no, I go to the pharmacy. I said, do you see the pharmacist and the pharmacist helper there? Yeah. Are they a Christian? I don't know. How often do you see them? I don't know, 4 or 5 times a month, maybe on every week. I said, good start there. Do you go to the post office after hours or get your mail? Oh, no, the mail person comes by my house every day. Oh. You know your mail person's name? No. That might be a good place to start. I have known every one of my mail carriers. And they know that I'm a pastor, and we have snacks on the front porch, and we talk all the time. If you look for people who are not Christians, how many guys go to a grocery store? Anybody here go to a grocery store? Yeah. Not my wife. She orders everything from Amazon, and she gets, DoorDash and stuff. She orders everything online. We know the UPS drivers well. I go to the store all the time. And you know what I do? I go to my pharmacist lady, even if I don't have any medications. And I wave. You go to the same checkout person, even if it's the longest line, just to build the relationship. You guys get haircuts? You pick a different person every time, or you pretty much go see the same person? I've been seeing my lady for 30 years. I tell her she's the reason I have gray hair. I didn't have gray hair before she got there, but reality I did, but I don't let her know that. I don't think she can remember that far back. So we often have gospel conversations. So she knows I'm a pastor. We kind of banter all the time. I say, hey, Renee, where are you going to church tomorrow? Well, you know, it's kind of, but we have those conversations. So God has placed those people in your life, your neighbors. There's all kind of people around you. So here's my question to you. Jesus must needs to go to Samaria. Who is your must needs? Who is it that God's telling you, you must go see this person? I'm hoping that right now you're thinking of at least one, if not two or three people, that you could be that person that must needs. Because if you got some non-Christians around you, when trouble comes, they look for a Christian. Man, my husband just got cancer. Can you pray for me and my family? If they know who you are and you have those conversations, they may not walk up and say, hey, can you help me find Christ? They may say, will you pray for me and my family? We just found out we've got cancer in the family. Or my mother just died. Do you know anybody who could help us with the funeral? Those kind of things are great on roads. They're a great way to have those conversations. Who is your woman at the well? Who is it that God's impressing upon you? Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a commercial here. Coming up on May the 3rd, it's a Saturday, from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. We have an evangelism training for your church at Mission Point Church. Anybody know where that church is? Hillier Avenue, right across Highway 4. It's right there. I'm going to say it's probably less than a mile or two. How much does it cost, Pastor Howard? Nada. It's free because you're part of the association. I went to this same workshop about a month ago in Vallejo. It's really, really good. You guys need to be there because you guys need to have gospel conversations and learn how to do that as a church and as individuals. Now, here's the fun thing. Our state convention and our association, we want churches to grow and to thrive and impact their community. Evangelism and sharing your faith is one way to do that. So we believe in your church so much that if you guys have some people to go, you don't even need to pack lunch. We're going to order lunch, free lunch for everybody. Okay? If your church goes, we will give you a grant for $1,000 for you to do something, some kind of an evangelism outreach project, whatever that looks like. But what do we have to do? You guys decide what fits your church, your culture. How can you impact people for Christ? We'll give you $1,000 to help your church do that. That's a great place to start. So when you guys go, you can have a conversation after and go, what did we hear? How can we share our faith? What can we do for our community? How can we have an outreach for our neighbors? You have 12 months to do it, so you could apply for this grant and do something at Thanksgiving or Christmas or back to school or something. You think that might help you impact a few people and help your church grow? I believe so. So I want to close this mission's emphasis on who is your woman at the well? Who is it that God is telling you, you must needs to go visit, to go see, to have so-and-so's conversation? We're here for a reason. God sent us on mission. Be the missionary God has called us to be. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for this great story that John recorded for us to talk about 2,000 years later. For this woman at the well, even though she was a person that was troubled and an outcast, you sought her out because you must need it to go see her, to go through Samaria. And as a result of her, many people in town became followers of Christ. Thank you for that example that we can take to heart. And we can follow suit. And we can do the same. That we can be that person to somebody who needs to hear about you. Give us the courage and the wisdom to recognize these divine interruptions. Thank you for this church and the leadership and Pastor Benny as he leads this church and the many other leaders who come alongside him and have helped this church go for so long. In your son's name that I pray. Amen.